What if the government has been lying to you for decades? Not about small things, about reality itself. Documents exist that prove conspiracies were real, not theories, facts. These files were classified for years, sealed away from public eyes, hidden behind national security claims. But eventually, the truth leaked out. Whistleblowers came forward, freedom of information requests, forced disclosure. What emerged wasn't fiction, it was documented proof. Proof that agencies lied, that experiments happened without consent, that surveillance exceeded every boundary. The official story always sounded reasonable, until you read the actual documents. Today, we're examining 10 declassified documents that confirmed the conspiracy was real. Each one proves something they denied for decades. These aren't theories pulled from internet forums. These are government files, official records, signed documents. Fair warning, this evidence contradicts what authorities claimed was paranoia, but the paper trail doesn't lie. And once these files became public, denial became impossible. Number 1 involves a program so unethical, so disturbing, that when the details emerged, it shocked the entire nation. The government swore it never happened. Then the documents appeared. Number 1. MK-Ultra. The CIA's mind control experiments. For decades, people who claimed the government drugged citizens without consent were dismissed as paranoid. The CIA called it conspiracy theory. No such program existed, they said. Then, in 1977, a Freedom of Information request changed everything. 20,000 documents survived. The rest had been destroyed 2 years earlier by CIA Director Richard Helms. But what remained proved the conspiracy was real. MK-Ultra started in 1953. The CIA wanted to develop mind control techniques, methods to extract information, ways to program human behavior. They experimented on American citizens, without knowledge, without consent. College students were recruited for what they thought were psychological studies. They were given LSD without being told. Mental patients in hospitals became test subjects. Prison inmates were dosed repeatedly. One subproject involved brothels. The CIA set up safe houses. Prostitutes would lure men inside. Drinks were spiked with drugs. Agents watched through two-way mirrors. The scale was massive. Over 150 sub-projects. Dozens of institutions involved. Harvard University, Cornell, Stanford, major hospitals across America. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb led the program. He personally oversaw experiments, tested drugs on unwitting subjects. Some experiments aimed to erase memory. Others tried to implant false information. Still others sought to create programmed assassins. The human cost was staggering. Frank Olson was a CIA biochemist. In 1953, his drink was spiked with LSD without his knowledge. Days later, he fell from a hotel window, died on impact. The CIA claimed suicide. His family was told he'd suffered a mental breakdown. 22 years later, the MK-Ultra documents revealed the truth. He'd been drugged as part of an experiment. His family received a settlement, a presidential apology. But the questions remained. Did he jump? Or was he pushed to silence him? The documents also revealed Operation Midnight Climax. The brothel program ran in San Francisco and New York. For nearly a decade, American citizens were unknowingly drugged and observed, all funded by taxpayer money. When the documents became public, the CIA expressed regret, but they insisted much of the research had been destroyed. No complete accounting ever happened. No one faced criminal charges. Here's what we know. The conspiracy theorists were right. The CIA did drug American citizens. They did conduct mind control experiments. For 20 years, they denied it completely, called accusers crazy, dismissed survivors as delusional. Then the documents proved it all true. And if they lied about this, what else are they lying about? Number 2. COINTELPRO. The FBI's war on dissent. In the 1960s and 70s, activists who claimed government surveillance and sabotage were dismissed as paranoid. The FBI said it wasn't happening. No such program existed. Then, in 1971, everything changed. A group calling themselves the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI broke into an office in Media, Pennsylvania. They stole over 1,000 classified documents, mailed them to newspapers. What those documents revealed shocked America. COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, a massive FBI operation to surveil, infiltrate, discredit, and disrupt domestic political organizations. It started in 1956, continued for 15 years, targeted American citizens exercising constitutional rights. The primary focus was the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was subjected to intense surveillance. The FBI bugged his hotel rooms, recorded private conversations, collected information about his personal life. Then they sent him an anonymous letter. It suggested he should commit suicide, included audio recordings meant to destroy his marriage. The letter was written on FBI letterhead. Later, declassified documents confirmed the Bureau sent it. But King wasn't the only target. The Black Panther Party faced systematic destruction. The FBI infiltrated chapters with informants, created fake letters to sow distrust between members, spread false information to media. In Chicago, FBI informant William O'Neill provided a floor plan of Fred Hampton's apartment. Hampton was chairman of the Illinois chapter. Police raided the apartment in December 1969. Hampton was shot while sleeping, killed at age 21. Documents later revealed the FBI had drugged Hampton before the raid. The informant put a sedative in his drink. The raid was part of COINTELPRO. The documents proved it. But the program didn't stop with civil rights groups. Anti-war activists were targeted, socialist organizations, even women's liberation groups. The FBI created fake documents to make groups suspicious of each other, sent anonymous letters to employers to get activists fired. They contacted landlords to have activists evicted, pressured universities to expel student protesters. One operation targeted Jean Seberg, an actress who supported the Black Panthers. The FBI spread false rumors she was pregnant by a Panther member. The rumor reached gossip columns. Seberg suffered a miscarriage. She never fully recovered. Years later, she died by suicide. The COINTELPRO documents proved the FBI orchestrated the smear campaign. When these files became public, the nation was outraged. Senate hearings followed. The Church Committee investigated. The FBI's response? They discontinued COINTELPRO in 1971, promised reform. But here's the thing. The program only ended because it was exposed. Without that break-in, without those stolen documents, it would have continued. For decades, people who claimed government surveillance of peaceful activists were called conspiracy theorists. Then the documents proved them right. Every accusation was true. The question isn't whether it happened. The documents confirm it did. The question is whether it ever really stopped. Number 3. Operation Northwoods, the Pentagon's false flag proposal. In the early 1960s, conspiracy theorists claimed the government planned false flag operations to justify war. Officials dismissed these claims completely. Absurd, they said. America would never do such a thing. Then, in 1997, documents declassified under the JFK Records Act revealed something disturbing. Operation Northwoods, a proposed plan by the Joint Chiefs of Staff to stage attacks on American targets and blame Cuba. The goal was simple: create public support for invading Cuba, overthrow Fidel Castro's government. The method was shocking. The military would stage terrorist attacks, kill American citizens, blame it on Castro. This wasn't speculation. This was an official Department of Defense document, dated March 13, 1962. The proposal included specific operations. Sink a boatload of Cuban refugees. Real people would die. The military would claim Castro's forces did it. Stage attacks on Guantanamo Bay. Blow up ammunition dumps. Start fires. Create casualties among service members. Sink an American ship in Cuban waters. Conduct a fake rescue operation. Create a Remember the Maine incident. stage hijackings of American aircraft, have passengers board, then claim Cuban jets shot them down, create a wave of terrorist attacks in American cities. Miami, Washington, D.C. Casualties would be real. Blame would be fake. The document even suggested manufacturing evidence. Plant Cuban weapons at scenes. Have fake radio transmissions in Spanish. Every detail was planned. Budgets estimated. Timelines proposed. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time was General Lyman Lemnitzer. He signed the document, presented it to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. McNamara rejected it immediately. President Kennedy never saw the formal proposal. Lemnitzer was quietly removed from his position months later. Sent to Europe, the operation never happened. But the fact it was proposed reveals something crucial. The highest military officials in America were willing to kill American citizens, stage terrorist attacks, start a war based on lies. All documented, all signed, all real. For decades, people who suggested the government might stage attacks to justify war were ridiculed. Then Operation Northwoods was declassified. Suddenly, the conspiracy theory became documented fact. The Pentagon proposed it. Senior military leadership approved it. Only civilian leadership stopped it. What does this mean? It means false flag proposals existed at the highest levels. It means military officials considered American lives acceptable casualties for political goals. The document sits in the National Archives now. Anyone can read it. The signatures are right there. When people ask why anyone would distrust official narratives about attacks or wars, this is why. Because once upon a time, the Pentagon planned exactly that. And the only reason we know is because the files were declassified. How many similar proposals never became public? Number 4. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Medical experiments on Black Americans. For decades, rumors circulated. The government was experimenting on Black citizens, withholding treatment, studying disease progression. Medical authorities denied it completely. Conspiracy theory, they said. Medical ethics would never allow such things. Then, in 1972, a whistleblower came forward. Peter Buxton, a public health service investigator. He leaked the truth. The documents confirmed what seemed impossible. For 40 years, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a study on Black men in Alabama. The Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. That was the official name. It began in 1932. Researchers recruited 600 Black men in Macon County, Alabama. 399 had syphilis. The men were told they had bad blood, a vague term covering several illnesses. They weren't told they had syphilis. Researchers promised free medical care, hot meals, burial insurance. The men enrolled. Here's what they weren't told. They wouldn't receive treatment. Even though treatment existed, when penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis in 1947, the men weren't given it. Researchers actively prevented treatment. Why? The study aimed to document the natural progression of untreated syphilis. Researchers wanted to see what happened when the disease went unchecked. For 4 decades, these men suffered. Syphilis causes terrible symptoms: blindness, dementia, severe nerve damage, heart problems. Many died from the disease. Some infected their wives. Children were born with congenital syphilis. All while researchers watched and documented. All while treatment existed and was withheld. The study continued through World War II, through the Civil Rights Movement, into the 1970s. When Buxton first raised concerns internally in 1966, he was ignored. Officials insisted the study was important, must continue. He went to the press in 1972. The Associated Press broke the story. The nation was horrified. The study ended immediately. Congressional hearings followed. A class action lawsuit resulted in a $9 million settlement. But the damage was done. 28 men died directly from syphilis. 100 more died from complications. 40 wives were infected. 19 children born with the disease. All documented. All preventable. All allowed to happen. In 1997, President Clinton formally apologized. Survivors received a public acknowledgement. But here's what matters. The conspiracy theory was true. The government did conduct medical experiments on Black Americans without informed consent. They did withhold treatment. They did watch people die. All in the name of research. The documents prove it. The official reports confirm it. The paper trail is undeniable. For 40 years, anyone suggesting such a thing would have been called paranoid, crazy, a conspiracy theorist. Then the documents emerged, and everything they claimed was proven true. This is why trust in medical authority remains damaged. Why communities of color view health initiatives with skepticism. Because it wasn't a conspiracy theory, it was documented government policy. And it lasted 40 years before anyone stopped it. Number 5. Gulf of Tonkin. The incident that never happened. The Vietnam War escalated based on an attack. North Vietnamese torpedo boats attacked American destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. That's what the public was told. President Johnson addressed the nation. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. Full military engagement in Vietnam followed. 58,000 Americans died. Millions of Vietnamese casualties. All based on an attack that, according to declassified documents, never actually happened. August 4, 1964. The USS Maddox reported being under attack by North Vietnamese patrol boats. Radar showed incoming torpedoes. Sonar detected enemy vessels. The destroyer took evasive action, fired back. Captain John Herrick commanded the Maddox. He filed an initial report describing the attack. Hours later, he sent another message. This one expressed doubt. Weather was severe. Visibility terrible. No actual visual confirmation of enemy boats. He suggested the attack might have been a mistake. Radar ghosts. Sonar anomalies. Crew nerves. That second message never reached President Johnson. Or if it did, it was ignored. Johnson went on television, announced American forces had been attacked, asked Congress for authorization to retaliate. The Gulf of Tonkin Resolution passed. Only 2 senators voted against it. America was fully committed to war. But documents declassified decades later tell a different story. NSA intercepts from that night show no North Vietnamese communications about an attack, no orders to engage, no after-action reports. Weather reports confirm the conditions were exactly as Herrick described. Severe thunderstorms, heavy seas, lightning creating false radar returns. No torpedo wakes were ever photographed. No damage to the destroyer occurred. No wreckage found. Captain Herrick himself later stated clearly, no attack happened on August 4th. In 2005, the NSA released a comprehensive study. Their historian analyzed all available evidence. The conclusion was unambiguous. No attack occurred. The Maddox crew misinterpreted their instruments, fired at nothing. But here's the critical part. Evidence suggesting the attack never happened existed in 1964. Captain Herrick's doubts were on record. Intelligence analysts questioned the reports. Some officials knew the incident was questionable. The attack was used anyway, to justify a war, to expand military operations, to commit America to a decade of conflict. Over 58,000 Americans died. The war cost billions of dollars, divided the nation, created a generation of trauma, all based on an incident that didn't happen. For years, people who questioned the Gulf of Tonkin narrative were attacked, accused of being unpatriotic, told they didn't support the troops. Then the documents were declassified. The truth emerged. The critics were right all along. The government used a questionable incident to justify war. Evidence was suppressed. Doubts were ignored. This isn't speculation. The declassified NSA study confirms it. The historian's report is available to read. The conspiracy theory was proven true. The attack that started a war never actually happened. And how many other conflicts started the same way? Number 6. PRISM, the NSA's mass surveillance program. In the 2000s, privacy advocates warned about mass government surveillance. They claimed the NSA was collecting data on millions of Americans. Officials called it conspiracy theory. We only target terrorists, they said. Constitutional rights are protected. Then, in June 2013, Edward Snowden leaked classified documents. What they revealed shocked the world. PRISM, a massive NSA surveillance program collecting data from major tech companies. Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Yahoo, Skype. The program started in 2007, operated in secret for 6 years, collected emails, chats, videos, photos, stored files, video calls, not just from suspected terrorists, from everyone, American citizens included. The documents showed direct access to company servers. The NSA could search collected data without warrants, without oversight, without limits. Other leaked documents revealed additional programs. Upstream collection tapped fiber optic cables, captured data flowing through internet infrastructure. The NSA collected metadata on every phone call in America. Who called whom, when, how long, stored indefinitely. Specific slides from NSA training presentations showed analysts how to query the database, search anyone's communications. No court approval needed. One program, called Muscular, tapped the cables between Google and Yahoo data centers, intercepted everything transmitted between their own servers. The companies didn't know. The cables should have been private, but the NSA accessed them anyway. When the PRISM documents became public, tech companies issued denials. They claimed no direct access existed. They only responded to legal requests. Then more documents emerged, showing tech company participation, some willing, some under legal pressure, but all involved. The government's response shifted. First, denial. Then, admission with justification. Yes, the program exists, but it's legal, necessary for national security. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper had testified before Congress 3 months earlier. Senator Ron Wyden asked directly, "Does the NSA collect any type of data on millions of Americans?" Clapper answered clearly, "No, sir." The documents proved he lied. Under oath. To Congress, he later claimed he gave the least untruthful answer possible, an admission that he knowingly misled Congress. No perjury charges followed. No consequences. The documents also revealed international scope. The NSA spied on foreign leaders, allied nations, trade negotiations, climate talks. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's phone was tapped. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff's communications intercepted. European Union offices bugged. All documented, all confirmed, all secret until the leaks. Court documents later revealed another fact. The FISA court, which supposedly oversees surveillance, approved nearly every NSA request. Rejection rate below 1%. The oversight was meaningless. The court was a rubber stamp. For years, people warning about mass surveillance were dismissed, called paranoid, told they had nothing to fear if they had nothing to hide. Then the documents proved the surveillance was real, massive in scope, operating without meaningful oversight. The conspiracy theory became documented fact. The NSA was watching everyone, collecting everything, lying about it to Congress and the public. Some reforms followed. Limited changes, more transparency, slightly more oversight. But the programs continue, modified but operational. The infrastructure remains. And if they lied about this for years, what else are they hiding now? Number 7. Operation Chaos. The CIA's illegal domestic spying. The CIA's charter is clear. They operate overseas. Domestic intelligence is FBI jurisdiction. The CIA is prohibited from spying on American citizens. That's the law. That's what they tell Congress. That's what they told the public for decades. Then documents emerged proving they did exactly that. For years, Operation Chaos began in 1967. President Johnson wanted intelligence on anti-war activists. He suspected foreign influence. The CIA was tasked with finding connections between protesters and foreign governments, particularly the Soviet Union or China. What followed was a massive domestic spying operation, completely illegal under the CIA's charter. The program created files on over 7,000 American citizens, maintained an index of 300,000 names. CIA agents infiltrated protest groups, attended meetings, reported on activities, all on American soil. They opened mail illegally, intercepted communications, monitored phone calls, created dossiers on protesters. College campuses were particular focus areas. Students organizing demonstrations, faculty members speaking against the war. The CIA compiled lists, tracked movements, recorded associations, built networks of who knew whom. One operation involved intercepting mail between the United States and Soviet Union. Letters were steamed open, contents read and photographed, then resealed. Over 20 years, this mail intercept program examined millions of letters, all without warrants, all illegal. The operation continued under President Nixon, expanded to include journalists, congressional staff members, civil rights activists. Anyone opposing administration policies became a potential target, their private communications subject to CIA scrutiny. The program operated in complete secrecy. Even most CIA employees didn't know about it, compartmentalized to prevent leaks. It stayed hidden until 1974. Investigative journalist Seymour Hersh broke the story, published details in the New York Times. The revelations sparked outrage, led to congressional investigations. The Church Committee dug deep. Documents confirmed everything. The CIA had violated its charter, spied on thousands of Americans, operated illegal domestic programs. Director William Colby testified before Congress, admitted the program existed, claimed it was discontinued. But here's the critical detail. They found no evidence of foreign control. After years of surveillance, thousands of files, 300,000 names, no significant foreign influence on the anti-war movement. The protesters were Americans expressing legitimate opposition. The entire operation was illegal. The justification was false. The results were meaningless except to violate civil liberties. Some agents faced internal discipline. No criminal charges filed. The programs were supposedly ended, but reforms had teeth. The Church Committee's work led to lasting changes, new oversight, clear restrictions, FISA courts established. Still, the pattern is clear. When the CIA claims they don't spy on Americans, declassified documents tell a different story. Operation Chaos proved they did exactly what they said they didn't. For years, at the highest levels, people warning about CIA domestic operations were dismissed as paranoid, wearing tinfoil hats, seeing conspiracies everywhere. Then the documents emerged, and the conspiracy was proven real, documented, undeniable. The question isn't whether it happened. The files confirm it. The question is whether proper safeguards prevent it happening again. And given what we've seen, skepticism seems warranted. Number 8. Project 112 and SHOD. Chemical weapons tested on troops. For decades, veterans reported strange illnesses, symptoms that appeared after military service, cancers, neurological problems, respiratory diseases. When they claimed exposure to chemical agents during service, the Pentagon denied it. No such testing occurred. Their illnesses weren't service-related. Benefits were denied. Medical treatment rejected. Records showed no exposure. Then, in 2000, documents began surfacing. What they revealed was horrifying. Project 112, Shipboard Hazard and Defense Program, called SHAD. From 1962 to 1973, the Department of Defense conducted chemical and biological weapons tests. Real agents, real exposure, real service members. Over 5,000 military personnel were exposed. Most had no idea what they were participating in. The tests occurred at sea and on land. Ships were contaminated with nerve agents. Personnel exposed. Reactions documented. VX nerve agent was used. Sarin gas. Biological agents like E. coli and anthrax. Service members were told they were participating in defense readiness exercises. They weren't informed about the chemicals involved. One test, called flower drum, involved spraying ships with bacteria. Personnel breathed it in, developed symptoms. Another, called Shady Grove, tested nerve agents. Sailors experienced twitching, nausea, breathing problems, all documented by military doctors. The tests continued for over a decade. Locations included Hawaii, Maryland, Utah, Alaska, and the open Pacific. After discharge, many veterans developed serious health problems. They filed disability claims, were repeatedly denied. The Pentagon maintained no records of exposure. No documentation existed. Claims were impossible to prove. Veterans advocated for years, tried to get acknowledgement, were told they were mistaken, suffering from unrelated illnesses. In 1994, Senator John D. Rockefeller released a report, documented 50 years of Defense Department experiments on personnel, often without informed consent. That report mentioned Project 112 but lacked details. The program remained largely hidden. Then, in 2002, investigative reporting by CBS News forced the Pentagon to act. They admitted the program existed. Declassified documents began emerging. Test records, personnel lists, exposure documentation. The Department of Defense created a website, listed tests, named ships involved, tried to identify exposed service members, but the records were incomplete. Many documents had been destroyed. Exposure logs were missing. Veterans who spent years being told their illnesses weren't service-related were suddenly proven right. Their exposure was documented. Their symptoms were legitimate. The Department of Veterans Affairs began approving previously denied claims. Medical treatment was provided. Compensation awarded. But for many, it came too late. They died waiting for acknowledgement, or lived years without proper care. The documents proved what the Pentagon denied for decades. They did test chemical weapons on troops. They did expose service members without informed consent. They did deny it happened for years, called veterans liars, refused benefits, destroyed evidence. For decades, anyone claiming the military tested nerve agents on its own people was dismissed. Conspiracy theorist, paranoid, attention-seeking. Then the documents emerged, and every accusation was proven true. Project 112 existed. Service members were exposed. The Pentagon covered it up for decades. The conspiracy theory became documented fact. The files don't lie. And how many other tests remain classified? How many veterans still don't know what they were exposed to? The documents revealed one program, but suggestions remain that others existed. Still secret, still denied. Number 9. The FBI's secret no-fly list and watch list abuses. After September 11, security measures expanded dramatically. The government created watch lists, people flagged as potential threats. Officials claimed strict criteria, due process, only actual threats listed, American rights protected. People who questioned this were told they were paranoid. Why worry if you have nothing to hide? Then documents leaked. What they showed was systematic abuse. The no-fly list was supposed to prevent terrorists from boarding aircraft. It contained thousands of names, including many American citizens. How people got on the list was secret. The criteria classified. No way to know if you were listed until you tried to fly. No notification, no explanation, no appeal process that worked. American citizens discovered they were banned from flying, couldn't travel for work, couldn't visit family. No reason given. When they asked why, officials cited national security. No details provided, no evidence presented. One Marine veteran, Abe Mashal, was added to the list. He worked as an insurance agent in Illinois, had no criminal record. He couldn't board a flight to Spokane for business. When he asked why, no one would tell him. He sued. During litigation, documents emerged. The FBI had added him because he was Muslim, knew other Muslims, had traveled to Muslim countries. No criminal activity, no terrorist connections, just his religion and associations. The documents showed this wasn't isolated. The FBI was systematically adding people based on religion, ethnicity, political associations. Another case involved Rahina Ibrahim, a Malaysian architecture student. She was flagged by mistake, a form filled out incorrectly. She spent years fighting to clear her name. Eventually won in court. The judge confirmed it was an error, but the government appealed rather than admit the mistake. Documents released during these lawsuits revealed the truth. The watch lists were massive, over 1 million names by 2014. The criteria for inclusion were vague: reasonable suspicion of terrorism ties, but no actual evidence required. Family members of suspects were added, people who attended the same mosque, travelers to certain countries. A journalist named Jeremy Scahill obtained leaked documents. They showed the rules for inclusion, how people were nominated, what agencies participated. The documents confirmed there was no meaningful oversight. Nominations were rarely rejected. People stayed on lists indefinitely. Clearing your name was nearly impossible. The appeals process was a bureaucratic maze designed to discourage challenges. The ACLU filed multiple lawsuits, represented clients who were unfairly listed. Documents emerged during discovery. Internal FBI communications showed agents knew innocent people were listed, knew the criteria were too broad, discussed the problems internally. But nothing changed. The lists kept growing. More Americans added, fewer removed. One document showed the FBI pressured Muslims to become informants. If they refused, they were added to the watch list. Retaliation for non-cooperation. This wasn't protecting national security. This was discrimination, intimidation, abuse of power. For years, people warning about watch list abuses were dismissed, told the system had safeguards, that innocent people had nothing to fear. Then the documents proved otherwise. The system was broken. Rights were violated. Minorities were targeted. Some reforms followed. More transparency, better appeal processes. But the lists remain massive. The criteria still vague. The conspiracy theory was proven true. The government was maintaining secret lists, adding Americans without evidence, violating due process. All documented, all confirmed, all still mostly operational. The question isn't whether it happened. The files prove it. The question is whether it's still happening now. Number 10. Iran-Contra. Arms deals and funding rebels illegally. In the 1980s, conspiracy theorists claimed the Reagan administration was breaking the law, selling weapons to Iran despite an embargo, funneling money to Nicaraguan rebels despite congressional prohibition. Officials denied everything, called it baseless speculation, attacks on the presidency. Then, in November 1986, a Lebanese magazine published a story, exposed the secret arms sales. What followed was a scandal that reached the highest levels of government, and documents that proved the conspiracy was real. Here's what happened. Iran was at war with Iraq, under an arms embargo. Officially, America sold them no weapons. But senior officials devised a scheme: sell weapons to Iran through Israel, use the profits to fund Contra rebels in Nicaragua. Congress had passed the Boland Amendment. It prohibited funding the Contras. The law was clear. The Reagan administration found a workaround. Don't use appropriated funds. Use money from arms sales instead. The operation was secret, coordinated by the National Security Council. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North ran the day-to-day operations. Weapons were sold to Iran. Money went to Swiss bank accounts, then transferred to the Contras, all covert. When the story broke, officials denied everything. But investigations began. Documents were subpoenaed. North shredded documents. Thousands of pages destroyed, but some survived. Backup copies, memos, communications. The Tower Commission investigated. Congressional hearings followed. Televised testimony revealed shocking details. North admitted running the operation, claimed he was following orders, said senior officials knew everything. National Security Advisor John Poindexter testified, admitted approving the plan, claimed he never told President Reagan to give him deniability. But documents suggested otherwise. Memos referenced presidential knowledge. Meeting notes mentioned Reagan's awareness. The documents showed extensive coordination. Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger knew. Secretary of State George Shultz knew. CIA Director William Casey was involved. This wasn't a rogue operation. This was policy. Secret and illegal, but policy nonetheless. The scheme violated multiple laws. Arms Export Control Act, Boland Amendment, possibly others. Money from the arms sales also went missing. Millions unaccounted for. Slush funds. Personal accounts. Some funds went to secure the release of American hostages in Lebanon. Trading arms for hostages. Something Reagan publicly said he'd never do. The documents proved he had. Authorized arms sales. Hoped for hostage releases. Did exactly what he denied. 14 administration officials were indicted. 11 convicted. But most convictions were overturned on technicalities. President George H.W. Bush pardoned 6 officials, including Weinberger, ended investigations. No one served significant prison time. The operation was exposed, but consequences were minimal. Here's what matters. The conspiracy theory was true. The administration was breaking the law, selling arms to enemies, funding rebels illegally. Documents proved it all. Memos, financial records, communication logs, testimony under oath. For months, people suggesting such things were called paranoid, conspiracy theorists, anti-Reagan partisans. Then the evidence emerged, and everything was confirmed. The conspiracy was real. The cover-up was systematic. This wasn't speculation. It was documented fact. Government officials violated the law, then tried to hide it. The pattern repeats. Official denials, accusations of conspiracy theory. Then documents emerge proving it true. Iran-Contra showed how far officials will go. Breaking laws, shredding evidence, lying to Congress, and only exposure forced acknowledgement. Without that Lebanese magazine article, the operation might have continued indefinitely. The conspiracy theorists were right. The documents proved it. 10 declassified documents. 10 proven conspiracies. MK Ultra showed the CIA drugged Americans without consent. COINTELPRO proved the FBI sabotaged peaceful activists. Operation Northwoods revealed military officials proposed killing Americans to justify war. The Tuskegee study documented 40 years of medical experiments on black men. Gulf of Tonkin showed a war started over an attack that never happened. PRISM confirmed the NSA was collecting data on millions of Americans. Operation Chaos proved the CIA spied domestically, despite their charter. Project 112 exposed chemical weapons testing on troops. Watchlist documents revealed systematic abuse of no-fly lists. Iran-Contra showed the administration breaking laws and covering it up. The pattern is undeniable. When officials deny something absolutely, documents later prove they lied. When people question official narratives, they're dismissed as conspiracy theorists until the files are declassified. Then the conspiracy theory becomes documented fact. These aren't isolated incidents. This is systematic. When uncomfortable truths threaten official narratives, they're buried. Classified for national security, sealed for privacy, hidden for decades. But documents survive. Whistleblowers come forward. Freedom of information requests forced disclosure, and the truth emerges. Every one of these conspiracies was denied completely, called paranoid delusion, dismissed as impossible. Then the paper trail proved otherwise. Signatures on documents, official memos, signed authorizations. The evidence was there all along, just classified, hidden from public view. What does this mean? It means skepticism is justified. Questions are necessary. Official denials aren't always truth. When authorities say something categorically didn't happen, documents might prove otherwise. History shows this repeatedly. The conspiracy theorists in these 10 cases were right. The evidence vindicated them. The documents confirmed their claims. So when officials dismiss questions today, when they call skeptics paranoid, remember these cases. Remember how many times conspiracy theory became proven fact, how many documents confirmed what was denied. The evidence speaks for itself. The pattern is clear. Truth has a way of emerging. Suppression works temporarily, but eventually, files are declassified, whistleblowers leak information, court cases force disclosure, and what seemed impossible becomes documented reality. These 10 documents changed everything, proved conspiracies were real, vindicated decades of accusations. The question isn't whether government officials sometimes lie. These documents prove they do. The question is, what else are they lying about? What documents remain classified? What truths are still hidden? Stay skeptical. Keep questioning. Demand transparency. Because if history teaches anything, it's this. What seems like paranoid conspiracy theory today might be declassified truth tomorrow. The evidence is out there. Sometimes it just takes decades to surface. But it always does eventually. Truth finds a way.